could stop you jaded. Half the man, I'm so frustrated. What is it you say? Don't speak, just turn away. Despite all my pain and misery.
Now, here's your host, Shakey.
All right, welcome back to another exciting adventure of Porch Talk. Today, I have a mother and son on that are going to talk about their experience on the family farm. And evidently, the experience goes back quite a ways. The mother doesn't really want her name put out, so we're going to call her Jane for Jane Doe, or Mama Stark. We'll just call her Jane. Zach's been on my show before. He was on a different show I had. A lot of people know Zach. Let's see. We're going to start towards the beginning, and then we're going to get into how Zach became a researcher through all this. So, Jane, let's start with you and where this all began and how it transpired with you.
Okay. I think it probably started my growing up on my family farm. I used to spend the majority of my day in the woods playing when I was a small girl. And I think I've come to realize that whatever is coming to visit me has possibly grown up with me. It was nothing for me to like lay down in the woods and sleep for, unlimited periods of time. And as I told Zach, there was always a time period where I would feel like something was watching me in the woods. It wasn't that I was uncomfortable, but I just think that they were comfortable watching me because I was a child. And, since I've really not varied from here for long periods of time during my life, I think they just are used to me being around and they're comfortable and they come to watch. A lot of experiences, were the structures that I saw in the woods that I'm seeing posted on different people's pages or sites were things I grew up with. And I didn't realize what it was. Prints in the creek and just different things. One memory really sticks out. I used to play underneath a nut tree. I think it's hickory nut. And there was always nutshells around it, but they were never chewed on, like a squirrel or something would chew on it. They were just cracked. They were empty shells, and it was always around where I had played. And it's just, it's the only time I told Zach that it's really scared me when it's like they're trying to get my attention. It's almost as if maybe some kind of communication. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it's always been a presence around me. And when I was little, it would smell like a dirty musk. And I was little, I thought there was like a skunk or something, or a bad smelling snake that gets in the water or something, but I just never really came face to face with one till probably about a year ago. Was driving home, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit, and did let me know that they are out here. Since then, there have been knocks on my house. There have been a lot of odd, sounds that they make. Not a growl, but, kind of guttural sounds, I've heard them hoot. I've heard them like a whistle and just different things. And it's like at night, I really can walk outside, like to my mailbox and stuff, that I still think they're just right across the road in the tree line watching. And there's just many different things that I saw that, you're welcome to ask me any questions you want. I'll answer everything that I can.
Well, you how? Well, your mother and father had this farm. Have they ever had any indication of anything being there?
Well, my grandmother and I lived on the same property, and she thought that it was after I had moved back down here. I'd lived away for about 2 years, and she thought someone was here prowling, and she actually shot through the screen. I had a mobile home that sat north and south, and hers sat east and west, and there was someone tall outside that she could see a shadow of, so she shot through the screen. And there's just, like I said, there's just always been things that I've known, and I just felt like I was watched. And my parents really wouldn't say much about it. Growing up, I heard a lot about what they call them, like shadow men or something like that, and it's always in this tree line. So I don't know how else to put it. It just seems like they were more centered around me and never really bothered anything around the house. We've had things on the farm where cows have just had their necks broke. They've not had their throat collapse like a big cat would do. But I can tell you, before the coyotes became really heavy out in this area and they did mining and strip mining, if you put a cow or calf or a bull out away from the herd to dispose of the body, it would be gone in no time. And no claw marks, no teeth marks. You would find the bones scattered and things like that. And I mean, that I just, I was little, I accepted it, but I can't really come up with any other explanation with no signs of any other creatures or animals. It's, for me, I just have kind of come to accept that, it's Bigfoot or Sasquatch, however you want to determine it. It's just pretty well what I believe it is. I don't think that they're out to hurt me. I just think that they're like, hey, notice me. I'm still around.
All right. Well, when you were younger and doing your thing in the woods or whatever, did you ever come across any tracks or any of these things that people call these structures or anything that you would find weird or anything? Or
well, I would come across hair on, it was like, wild grapevines that hang down and wrap around the trees. I would come across like a reddish brown hair, and I would see it, and it was always around these structures. And I could, in my mind, I was like, well, I knew it wasn't deer hide. It wasn't deer hair. Our horses and our cattle weren't anywhere, and they definitely weren't up that tall. But it's just these structures where it's almost like I would see like 2 or 3 saplings broken and together like a mini teepee, the best way to do it. And when I was little, I didn't think anything about it. Well, I would do that too. I would make those, and I would take them, like tie them together with seagrass string that my dad used to bale hay, and I never thought anything about it. And I don't know if maybe that's what could have prompted them to continue to leave structures all over the farm, because I've been over every inch of this farm growing up. And that was always my experience. It was just like I would see little things here and there, just little signs, sometimes big footprints down in the creek bed. And there were fish in the creek. And it was always at the edge. And sometimes I would like go walking through the creek, and there would be like a really deep footprint in the creek as well, down where it was really soft in the bottom, where the silt and stuff had settled on the rocks, because it's sandstone around here. And I mean, it was just signs, and like I said, it really wasn't big and publicized back then, so I really didn't think anything about it. But looking back, I mean, I'm sure this is what's been going on. I'm 55 years old, so I really think this is what it is. But I'll always smell them and not see them, if that makes any sense to you at all, Steve.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So you said a year ago is when you had your first sighting of one.
Yes.
You
I was
won-
on my way home. It was windy, and it wasn't the trees hanging down. It was like October, and it's about 10:30 at night. And like I said, the leaves were blowing across the tree and stuff. And then all of a sudden, something come walking out, and it was probably between 6 and 6'6" foot tall, and it just turned, and it was dark. And my headlights caught it, and the eyes were red. And I just stopped. I mean, I took my foot off the gas and just kind of rolled, and I was probably, I don't want to say more than 35, 40 feet from it. And it just kind of stopped in the middle of the road and just thundered on across. And I just kind of come home in shock because, I was like, dang, what was that? And I talked to Zach about it. That is not that far from my house. It's about a mile. So, I mean, it makes sense because from there on back, I took Zach out and we went and saw a bunch of structures when the leaves had fallen after that. So I pretty well think, they're back definitely down in this area, hot and heavy, where I saw them cross the road. So, and we were having an early rut, so I don't know if they were here or just, had been over doing something and going back to where they wanted to nest for the night or what, After that, I'd been a little freaked out, and I hadn't gotten too deep into it after that.
Now, you yourself have never had any desire to want to investigate them, or do you investigate them, or how do you stand with this?
Since Zach is older, I can tell you it was probably about 2005. I was just up north of that area, down in a little valley, picking blackberries in June with my youngest son, and I could hear something, and I could finally smell it. We kind of got downwind from it, and I smelled the same smell. I never see it. We could hear it walking around, and it wasn't just like something light walking through. You could tell. It sounded like a grown man stepping around in the leaves and like tree branches and stuff on the floor of the woods. And it finally spooked me pretty bad. And I did get my little boy out. I mean, that's close as I had been until I saw the one crossing the road. And that's been probably almost 12 years.
Wow. So, all right, and then now Zach comes along, and what prompted him to get involved into this?
He just had always been really interested in stuff like that, and I mean, I've always took hiking out in the woods, and he's been real involved, messing around and playing and walking in the woods by himself, and I think he just got a real genuine interest in it. He's like me. We're kind of empathic, and we can feel things, heavy feelings and stuff, and anxiety, and maybe he just picked up on them. I don't know. You would have to ask him more about that, but he's just always had a growing interest in them since he's been really young.
Well, let me ask you this: being a mother, how do you feel about your son being out there looking for a huge primate, a wild animal in the woods?
Well, I told him when he went camping a little bit earlier this year, he told me there was one in the camp. And I told him, I said, well, I think if you don't bother, it'll be okay. It just, I said, I don't want you hurt. I don't want you to act aggressive. I mean, there have been times that I've had to go outside in the last year and just tell him, this is my house. Don't come knock on my house. Don't come bother me. This is my house, and I'm tired of it. Because it was frightening my youngest son. I mean, it just, even oh gosh, I guess after that, it come up and slapped the window of my kitchen dining room, and it rattled the whole wall of the house. And like I said, I don't know if it's a plea for attention or for me just to recognize. I don't feel threatened. Maybe I should, but I don't. And one thing I will tell you, Zach told me that they like a woman's voice. If this is true, I sing in my house all the time. A lot of times my kitchen window is open in weather where you don't need the air conditioner or the heat, and I'll sing a lot. I play the piano. They could have heard me doing that over the years and singing. I don't know. Or I'll sit outside and have coffee right before daylight on my porch. And it's, like I said, it's, I just think that maybe it could have been my avoidance of the subject with Zach that even piqued his interest for him to want to know more, because he's always been a very inquisitive child. He's always wanted to know more, dig a little deeper, find out everything he can about something and research it to death. I was always like that growing up, research everything.
Yeah.
And now, not was it last fall? Or, April. He was down in the woods, and he told me to come get him. There was something chasing him through the woods, and I flew out the door, no shoes, went down and got him. And he come out of a creek and got in the Jeep, and he was shaking, and there was something after him. And I told him, maybe you walked into the area where they nest, because it was right in the area I told you where my youngest and I were picking blackberries at one time. I really think this is just the general area for them down there. Don't you, Zach? And I just think, the more Zach can find out about something, the more he's going to want to know. And I think it could be because they saw him grow up too, like they did me. Maybe they're comfortable with us. I'm just learning a lot about it now, because I just kind of shook it off and said, okay, whatever. Years ago, after that one hoax, and they said it was the body of a Bigfoot, and it wasn't, and it just kind of made me stick it to the back of my mind, and that could have just been fear or not enough knowledge.
Yeah, you were saying April, that's springtime. You never know. They could have had a youngin' up in there, and he could have got too close, and, just like a bear,
Yeah.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say what happened, but Zach, since you're there, what triggered it for you, Zach? What was the initial spark?
Well, I'd always heard about stories from the old timers and everything, and it was all just old campfire stories growing up whenever I was in the Cub Scouts, and they'd tell me about the hairy man of the woods and stuff like that. But it all happened back about 12 years ago, when I was about 10 years old. I was coming home, and it was late, and I was up north in Redbud, Illinois with my dad, and we was coming home late from a Cardinals baseball game in St. Louis. And we were in the garage getting ready to go in the house. And it was real uneasy that night. Just even thinking about it makes me uneasy. And the coyotes in the area just took to howling like really bad. And out there where we're at, it was all corn at the time, and the harvest hadn't even happened yet. And the coyotes started going, and then all of a sudden, the biggest howl I ever heard let out, and it sounded like an elk bugle crossed with a woman screaming it. I mean, my dad heard it, I heard it, and it terrified me to the point I ran in the house and about pulled the door off the hinges trying to get it unlocked to get in the house. So we got inside and locked the door. And it was right out behind the house where the high corn was.
Wow. And that's what got you to want to know what it was?
That's the initial spark. It was hearing that call, that scream, and I was determined. I asked my dad, and I said, "What in the heck was that?" He said, I don't know. It could have been a coyote. I said, Dad, I'm 9 years old, and that I know for a fact there wasn't no coyote. I said it sounded more like a gigantic wolf howl. And there's no wolves in that part of Illinois at the time. Before they reintroduced them some years later, there wasn't no wolves in that part of Illinois. And that set me off on this quest to prove that Bigfoot exists, and especially here in Southern Illinois. And over the years, I did a lot of my research, and then I found the Patterson-Gimlin film. Whenever a picture of the Patterson film, whenever Patty's looking over her shoulder at Roger and Bob. That was the image that's been stuck in my mind since I was 9 years old, whenever I started on this quest, whenever I was in grade school, and I read the book, Bigfoot, Man, Myth, or Legend. And it was by Carrie Carmichael, and it was a little itty-bitty book, no thicker than your pinky. But it packed so much in there, and it told me stories about Bigfoot being seen at the edge of towns, a prospector in British Columbia being abducted by one and taken back to its cave and stayed with its mate and its 2 offspring. And stuff like that has always stuck with me. And it all come to a head a couple years ago whenever I seen my first one face to face. And it was actually on my mom's birthday, my senior year in high school. I was out and I had a call that said my cattle got out. Well, it's early in the morning and my granddad was asleep, so I didn't want to bother him. So I went out and I threw my boots on and everything. I grabbed my gun I had here at the house and I went out to go get him. And I carry a gun in the woods because you don't know what the wildlife department's turning loose. We got bobcats, coyotes, wolves, cougars, what have you. Anything that you back in a corner could kill you. So I'm always trying to be prepared. So I went back behind the house where it was off in my uncle's field, and he's long since passed now. And I went down through this Russian olive grove, past the trees, and they were down in there. I pushed them back through the fence, fixed the fence, was going to come back later and patch that fence. And it's about 7 o'clock now, and I'm cutting my way back to the house, and I'm no more than 40, 50 feet away from the house, and I hear something following me through the Russian olive grove. And I'm sitting there thinking, who in the right mind would be out here? Of course, it's squirrel season, but you know, whenever you're hunting squirrels, you got to be very, very still because those things can see you a mile away. And I'm like, this ain't no squirrel hunter. And I know deer season ain't in season. So I keep walking, but I'm being more and more and more easy as I go. And I heard a rustle behind me. I spun around, I looked, and something was just shaking the tar out of this Russian olive tree. I mean, it was shaking it so hard that the leaves were falling off, Shakey. And I said, who's there? Then the shaking just stopped. I said, tell me who you are. I've got a gun. They didn't answer, and I heard something rustling and it started to come towards me. I put a number 6 shell in my 20 gauge, and I shot in the air, and that thing bolted out of the Russian olive grove about 20, 30 yards away from me. And it was big, and it was black, and it was bulky. And I've told this story to several people, and they said I possibly either saw a man or a black bear. Well, I got news for you. Here in this part of Illinois, we don't have black bears. And there wouldn't be no man that big out here I know of, because this thing was easily 8 to 8.5 foot tall. And this thing was sprinting on 2 legs, making at least 6 foot strides, bounding in a sprint. And that's easy. Easily my estimate. This thing booked it 40 yards in under 10 seconds with no problem. And they're like, you probably saw a bear. 1, we ain't got black bear in Southern Illinois, like I said. And 2, bear don't sprint on their back legs like a human.
Mm. What do you think? What do you think these creatures are?
Honestly, I can't give you a definitive answer. I could give a guess and say that they're innate, but there's so much in the community that puts them at so much different things. But for me, I'm flesh and blood. That I'm a dead set flesh and blood believer that these things are actual beings and they're not interdimensional. They can't cloak. They don't go through portals and all that jazz. I believe that this is a flesh and blood creature. If it is a leftover Neanderthal from eons past, if it's a ape that's not yet discovered by science, I couldn't give you an answer, but I'm on the fence with that. And I know it couldn't be a human and ape hybrid because Joseph Stalin tried that and there was a stalemate experiment. But I honestly can't give you an answer what these things are.
No.
All I know is if they really wanted to break in the house and hurt us or kill us, they would have already done it.
No. Do you all have any? Do you have any fear of that happening?
We had one night that my cat was in the window, and he started hissing and spitting and growling, and then all of a sudden it's just like the scream come right out of the window towards the outside, and the cat fell. And he, by the time we got out, he was underneath the car, and he was growling and hissing. It was bad. It was just like something just literally pushed him, and that took that window screen. There was an emergency pop-out screen. It's just like it took it and wadded it up. It was just like you wad up a piece of foil off of a piece of gum. But that's just what it did with that window screen. It just like jerked off and just disintegrated with whatever grabbed it. But that was the oddest thing. I know after that, we could not get that cat to sit in the window for anything. That cat just got away from the window. He was like, I'm not coming back to that window.
He wouldn't even go in that room ever again.
He didn't even want to go back in that room.
Wow, something scared that cat pretty bad.
Yeah, I know. Poor old cat. Yeah. He lost a lot of hair after that, so I think he got him.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
Whatever it is out here, I have out the dog, and he'll whine, but he never barks, and I can tell the difference. He'll bark if another dog or humans out here messing around, or the cows get out, because that's the kind of dog he is for herding cattle. But when I've heard sounds outside, and he knows what it is, he doesn't. At first he was young, he'd make a little sound, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, whatever you are, I know you, and it's cool with me. And usually this kind of dog is extremely protective of its owner and the property. He's a blue heeler. And he just, I even have times that I was out one night a couple weeks ago. It was about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and my chihuahua needed to go to the bathroom. I had him outside, and all of a sudden, we were out here, and I heard something across the road in the tree line where I told you that I believe they stand and watch the house. That dog was over at that tree line. He turned around. He didn't have to go. He was right back up that stairs, pulling at that leash like, come on, Mom, let's go. Let's get in the house. I got to get inside. Growl, and usually he's a very aggressive little dog. Because he's chased off dogs that are like 10 times, 12 times the size. He doesn't want to mess with anything, and it's like every time I bring him out, he'll look right over at that same area if it's like before daylight. So I still say, they're out here around my house, and like I said to Zach the other day, and reiterated, I think it's something that's grown up or, was older and had offspring, and it grew up with me. Anyway, I still think it's something that's known me all my life. It's who I am and knows that I'm not any threat. I've had times where I've come out and there have been tomatoes and squash and stuff taken out of my garden, cucumbers, all kinds of things. And I've looked around and, raccoons and stuff, and squirrels, they'll leave scraps and stuff where they take stuff. No, I've gone out the next day to go pick stuff, and it's like it's gone. Or I would have like tomatoes set out on a board on the railings of my deck, they would be gone. So I knew they weren't little either. They were nice sized tomatoes. So I know it. I mean, even cabbages and stuff. And I'd be like, okay, what? Rip that up and took that head of cabbage off. No raccoon's going to do that. What do you think they're going to do? Roll it down the road? They were huge. So I still think, that's what it is. It's even to the point that I don't throw scraps outside anymore, outside of my house, because I was like, I'm not doing it. I used to throw them out for the pots and stuff like that. I don't do that no more. I don't have anything to do with that. It's like, I can't explain. It's like I'm a mother protecting my house, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Have either one of y'all tried to habituate?
No.
I'm just curious. I didn't know if you've tried to feed them or try to leave them a gift, or just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I may try that.
I know it can be dangerous.
Well, I know. I mean, if I put anything out now, it's like at the edge of my yard, at the far edge next to the field. My dad was cleaning. What was it in May, Zach? Back here, May or June, at the back of the hayfield behind the house. And he said whatever's been coming through behind my house has made a trodden path. Not like a wore down deer path. Yeah, it was almost like a 4-lane highway back there. So whatever's been coming through, my dad about fell over, and he doesn't want to talk about it at all. Yeah, it's right behind. You're right behind and it's just it's also where I heard noise back behind my house. So I think that this has to be their pathway through here or something, right by my house. Where they're back and forth and getting stuff. Because my dad has a big pond full of catfish, and I wondered if it kept through field and even went to the pond, because we've had different fish just completely disappear out of the pond.
Some of them end
Yeah.
up on the pond.
Yeah, some of them land up on the pond bank.
Now, do you notice anything different times of the year? Do you notice more activity certain times of the year than on others? Any changes or?
Yeah, I noticed more activity and noises outside a lot in the spring. Not so much in the winter. I've noticed like in the fall when the leaves are changing, right before the leaves start to fall, there will be a lot of activity. And I don't know if they're just like out gathering stuff for the winter, for stores, or in the spring they're more comfortable because there's more cover in the trees and tall grasses and things like that. And one thing I will tell you, I'm sitting right here looking at an apple tree where next door to my property, I used to have a family member that lived there. They have an apple tree and like pear trees and stuff, and those are always, when those are ready and ripe, those generally pick them. None of us pick those. And there's a light that shines on the property that would show us if anybody was parked there picking those apples. But it's always picked clean.
Up high.
Up high. There's no deer that can get up in this tree. It's up above where a deer can stand up on its hind leg. And it's too thick. Yeah, it's not been trimmed down at the bottom or anything. So I mean, there's ample things here, but I can tell you when I have thrown out apples and melons, it seems like they like those. It's just something I've noticed.
How do you all have caves around there? Or is it what? I've been through there, but I've never stopped and explored anything around there. I mean, is there caves around there, or what kind of shelter would they have if they stayed there year round?
Well, what they have is some places is where like the creek has dug out, and we went back in and looked, and it's like you can sit down in some of them. Just like in a little cove. There's a couple places like down in the valleys. It's really sheltered off of a bluff. We had a cow fall off a bluff one time, and I went with my dad down there to try to get her out or take care of her. And down at the bottom of the bluff, it's very sheltered. They could be down in there and stay safe and dry and sheltered. anytime. And my dad, and the only thing I noticed is there's been more activity since my dad went out and bulldozed on his property. You notice that how they're more active now because my dad took away a lot of the tree cover because of the cattle, so they'd have a little more grazing area.
Do you
But
do you have a lot of pine trees around there?
pardon?
Do you have a lot of pine trees around there? Like it's like pine trees they can get up underneath if they wanted to have shelter under a pine tree?
Not unless it's like in the National Shawnee Forest or someone plants them in the yard. No, but my aunt and uncle planted a whole line of pine trees right up here, not too far from me. And there's a big one right here in my neighbor's yard that they planted when my cousin lived there. It's big. It's just like a little clump of trees. And it's over there by the fruit tree I was telling you about.
All right,
The
how about
pine trees, not
abandoned farmhouses?
Not really a lot.
Down there in Polk County is where a lot of them are. Of course, that's down there in the mountains.
Oh yeah, down in Polk County we have is it Saline Polk county line is called Womble Mountain Range, and that was formed by an earthquake years ago. I think it's like 1800s. And that's where the Shawnee National Forest is. And there's like Pound Hollow, Garden of the Gods. It's beautiful down in there, and there's a lot of places that they could hide there. A lot of trails that people can't get on with the ATVs and forest trails or hiking trails only, where, I mean, they could be completely sheltered there. We even have some wetlands around Cache River. I think that's down around Mound, Illinois.
By Mountain City.
Yeah, by Mound City. And we went to the acorn pickup when we were having trouble with oak trees here in Illinois. So it was replenished. But pine trees is just a very unusual thing, like I said, unless someone plants them themselves.
Yeah, I was just curious. I was just wondering where they could go for shelter around there. I mean, as far as natural shelter, or even pine trees is good for a good thing for them to eat. You know, it's great for nutrition and whatnot. I was just trying to get an idea.
Oh yeah. Well, we have a lot of maple trees. We have a lot of not as much in the last few years, but still quite a bit of wild honeybees. You know, there's always somewhere in a tree there's natural honey. You can almost always find one different places out here. Like I said too, I just think that they come through and they strip mine when I was young, so I was in probably 30. And I think that stirred up everything too, because it took away a lot of their natural places to hike. There was natural water sources, valleys for them to be in, caves, and all kinds of things. Just around here, old mines. You know, we have some old mines here that I wonder, you know, if they haven't filled in the shafts, if they're down in there. Because my dad says it stays like 60-some degrees in some places and warmer year round. So, you know, they're in from the wind and the rain, you know, they would be fine there. And, you know, they'd even have a water source in there from natural seams in the wall coming through. So that would be a good place. And that's in an area where there's a lot of deer. But there's several, like I said, there's several mines around here that are shut down. One my dad worked at when I was little. So it's just, they have ample place to be.
How about the natural forest? Is there natural forests around there? National forests around there. And is there a lot of camping areas around there where they could you know, I've noticed like bears. You know, bears will if bears have become scavengers off humans. I mean, if humans put trash out, yeah, that's what they want to live off. They've learned to live off of humans. So is there a lot of camping areas where they can scavenge or?
Yes. Yes.
And every bit of national forest and state parks around here, Ferncliff, Garden of the Gods, Red Lake, Crab Orchard Wildlife Refuge, Cheyenne National Forest. There's campgrounds everywhere, all throughout Southern Illinois. There'd be plenty of places from scavenge and all kinds of stuff. Even a little grassy lake out there, Devil's Kitchen Lake.
We were camping with the Boy Scouts, and it's been like almost 16 years ago. My youngest was just a baby, and we were in the tent, and I had something reach and touch my head because we had our mattress up against the wall of the tent, and I had something touching my head through the tent, and I remember waking my ex-husband up saying, "There's something touching my head. Don't move." It scared me half to death. Deer, everything comes right in your camp when you're camping there. And it's so bad that you have to put like your food either in containers that don't open easily, big storage containers, or in your cars at night, or put it in sacks and hang it from the tree so stuff can't get it. So I mean, I just think they're everywhere, and people just have not.
Let me ask you two questions. Close to your farm,
Okay.
close to where you live at your farm there, is there a landfill and are there orchards of apple orchards or any kind of orchards, fruit orchards?
I think there's the old landfill there. There's plenty of orchards, definitely, down around Goreville and over here on our next door neighbor, Doc's place. He's got a little orchard. There's orchards all around Goreville, down by Little Grand Canyon, down by McCanda, and south of Murfreesboro. There's apple orchards out the wazoo down that way. And then my grandparents have got pear trees. There's pear trees and apple trees all over, wild pear trees. There's the old landfill that's down by Southeastern College that ain't in use anymore, but there'll still be stuff down around there.
So what I'm getting at is, you all have a farm with cattle, and I'm sure there's other farms around there with livestock of different types, sheep or whatever. And then you've got these orchards, and if there's a landfill in there, it definitely seems like there is plenty for them to eat around there, and especially year round.
I think that's why they stay. I really do.
Yeah.
That's why I don't to bother. I just think they get curious, or they want me to know that they're around. And I don't know. And like I said, the one that slapped the house so hard, it scared me because I screamed. And
Let me sit up in the bed.
yeah.
I'm dead asleep.
And Zach, Zach will tell you, we've really not had that happen again. I've had it mess, come up on the back deck and mess around, but I didn't even think about it. I had set up old scraps outside, and it wasn't something that took it off. And I had a big, heavy pot that was a huge clay pot. Just broke because there was some herbs in it. So, I mean, that, it was a sweet herb. It wasn't anything that was like real savory or anything. I think it was like basil or something like that. I have trouble keeping raising basil outside because they like it for some reason. I don't know what it is, but they like it. It's always gone. My plants have always been pruned or pulled up, but they never survived. That's the one. Rosemary and sage just fine. Basil, not so much. And garlic. I can't keep garlic in the ground.
Oh. Huh. Well, let's jump over to Zach again. Zach, you've been researching for a good while now. What do you think is some of the best evidence you found since you've been researching?
Just the one footprint that I found. It was about a year ago. I found it in the creek bottoms down there, and I showed you I remember it was one I sent you a year ago, and then it was this year. I found it in the same exact spot, and they were the same size. And then I found the big tree structure, teepee style, sitting up on the hill by where I had my camp out this last November, with my cousin Kyle. That one was sitting right on the edge of our campsite. That's probably some of the best evidence that I found. They're usually not really that vocal at night, and especially like whenever I sit outside and I have my digital recorder going, they kind of I guess they have like that sixth sense to where they actually know that I'm there, and they can sense something different, and they tend to stay very quiet.
Yeah. Definitely something sets them off where they, I think I've made the comment before that, bears can know a game camera when it's in the woods because we've seen them come up to them and mess with them. So there's some,
Right.
a bear can sense it, why not a Sasquatch? So what are your plans for in the future? What do you got planned to do here coming up as far as your research?
Basically keeping to myself. We're still doing our Bigfoot research privately. We're firing up with our lichen division where we're investigating canine cryptids. We're doing our paranormal investigations. Next May, I'm going to be going to the Waverly Hills Sanitarium to do a paranormal investigation with a couple of family friends that asked me to go specially. Trust me, I'm not. I may have pulled back from the public Bigfoot community, but I'm still here doing my research, and I'll be back eventually.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. You don't have to be public about it. Your research is your research. Just be yourself and do your thing. That's all that matters. Miss Jane, is there anything else you want to talk about or that you might have thought about more or any experiences you thought about?
Oh, she's already gone back in the house.
Well, thank her very much for coming on. Zach, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Just stay tuned. We'll see what we can find. It's one adventure at a time, and trying to find Bigfoot is an adventure in itself. I mean, that you get to meet so many good folks and everything in the community, and at the conferences and everything, you get to meet so many nice folks, and you get to pick up a lot of intel, and it expands your mind, and it really makes you think. And I'll tell you right now, live, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not like it is on television. Equipment breaks down. Your transportation breaks down, someone gets hurt. I mean, I've had side-by-side broke down on the side of a hill whenever me and my brother was out doing a solo investigation with the two of us. And I mean, I remember about 4 or 5 months ago, I was out doing a solo investigation myself, camping out on my property, and I almost cut my finger off. Had to be rushed to the hospital, and that put that thing to the grave real quick. But like I say, it's not easy, especially know the area that you're going into. If you're going to be a researcher and you're going to go looking for these things, know the wildlife in your area, the lay of the land, know the history. Just don't go out there half-cocked. Actually let people know where you're going, because like I do on every investigation, I always tell people where I'm going, and I give them a GPS coordinate once I get in the woods. So that way, if they can't raise me or get a hold of me on the phone, they can always know where to start looking. So it's always, especially one thing, and don't go out looking for Bigfoot right off the top of your head. It's always got to be safety first, because a lot can happen out there, even if you got a group or if you're by yourself.
It's very true. It's very true. When I was doing a lot of investigating, I never told people where I was going to investigate because I didn't want anybody tampering. But I always told my wife where I was going to be or the area I was going to be in case I didn't come back for that reason. If I didn't, somebody would know where to look. And that's the important part. If somebody wants to follow you that is listening and doesn't know who you are, where can they go to follow you or to catch up with you and see what you're doing?
If they want to go and find me on the Facebook with the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters Team homepage. You type in Southern Illinois Monster Hunters Team on Google, and you can find us there. You can find us where we're on the Bigfoot blog spot, where we had one of our articles posted. You can find our website on there on wix.com, or you can find us on Facebook with our homepage. You can follow me on Twitter at Blimp1995. If you have an encounter you'd like to email me, it's Blimp, SIMH, @gmail.com. I'd be very happy to talk to you. Just stay tuned and hang on for the ride, because it gets good every single time.
It's definitely a ride. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Once again, please, if you can, support your local non-kill animal shelters, the non-kill pet rescues, and your local non-kill. Man, I'm having brain farts today like nobody's business. Oh, man, what the hell is wrong with me today? The place they take the animals to, humane societies. That's what I'm looking for. The non-kill humane societies. Support the non-kills. You know, there's a lot of animals out here, loving animals that need loving homes, and and get your pets spayed and neutered so they don't they don't multiply and cause the issue. And if you find a pet that you want that's in a different state and you're trying to figure out how you can get that pet to you, well, I am being produced by Bigtruth Productions. And look, Ed Brown has a pet transport. Look up Bigtruth Pet Transport on Facebook. And Ed Brown can hook you up. Find that dog or kitty that you like and call Ed Brown and he will get it to you. So there you go. No excuses. Check out my Facebook page. It's called Shakey's Porch Talk podcast YouTube show. Please like it and join it. And let's see what else. If you're watching this on Bigtruth, please like, subscribe, and share it. If you're watching this on Shakey's Porch Talks channel on YouTube, please like it, subscribe, and share it. And all I can say is everybody have a blessed weekend and a great day. And thank you very much for watching. And I'll see y'all next week.